Welcome to Crushgasm, the podcast dedicated to the highs and lows of crushes. From their first to their worst, we're going to cover them all with a cascade of characters, including our guest today, someone who wouldn't mind being bitten by the red viper, Shana Lindaman, a cool mom, animal lover, and true crime enthusiast that moonlights as an armchair detective who is here to talk not only about her podcast, Crime Rewind, but also her Hollywood it-list crush, Pedro Pascal. Shana, how are you?
I am doing great. I am so excited to share my love of Pedro with you and the world.
Yeah, he is on everybody's minds right now in the last couple of years, but he is yours to claim. But before we get to all things Pedro Pascal, can you tell the people where they can find you and your show online?
Yes, absolutely. I am a member of the I Did Not Make These Rankings podcast network, where I am a co-host of two shows, Crime Rewind, which drops every Tuesday coming up real soon. It's where my co-host and I, Amanda, we talk about old, cold, and often untold cases of the true crime world. And then I also am a co-host with Casey and Amanda on a show called Crime Rewind, where we pick a book, read it together, and then we discuss. So that is on a reprieve, but it will be coming back very soon. We are doing a crossover with The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songs and Snakes, the movie and the book. So that is going to be recorded soon. So check that out.
Alrighty. And books and crime, that's what she's got you going.
Yes.
So for me, Game of Thrones is not a show that was ever on my radar. I don't read books like that, nor do I usually lean towards fantasy and dragons when it comes to television. So I didn't even know Pedro Pascal had been a part of the show. But he didn't pop up on that until around the 4th season anyway. But were you a fan of the show before he came around?
Yes, I was one of those people that had their Sunday night set aside where, you'd watch the latest episode. And he wasn't really on my radar either as someone to watch when I came across him on the show. It wasn't until I saw him on other things that I was like, oh my gosh, let me go back and rewatch that. And I did. I binge watched the entire show again just so I could develop the story and, fall in love with Pedro for the first time.
So did you like anyone on Game of Thrones before Pedro Pascal, before you discovered your love of his character?
I did. There was a lot of characters. It was a show with a lot of in-depth characters. I liked Jon Snow. I liked Daenerys Targaryen. I even liked... what was his name? The guy that Peter Dinklage played. I can't think of his name.
Is his name Tyronian?
Tyrion.
These names, I'm just going to butcher them.
They're very, very, all of them seem to be super similar. So the first time I watched it, I always got super confused. And then the second time I kind of created a flow chart. And the books, when you read the books, they kind of have a family tree kind of thing. And anytime they introduce themselves, they're always Tyrion Targaryen, first of his name, second of the house of Targaryen. And I'm like, what? No. I want someone to introduce me like that.
No. They had a lot of time back then to just be announcing your arrival, right?
Right. And they would tell them who their parents were. And I'm just that's unnecessary.
Imagine if they did that today, but it was your Twitter your social media accounts.
It would be even better if it had to be your very first email account.
I think I can still log into my first AOL account. I think it's hooked to my PayPal, maybe. So I do.
Yeah, my email address is hooked to my iTunes account, and everything is hooked to my email address. And it's under my married name I've been divorced for over a decade, but I haven't changed it because everything's tied to it. So every time I have to give that out, I cringe just a little bit.
No iTunes, no. You gotta get Spotify. Anyway, so you have a Spotify?
I do have Spotify.
Okay.
I do have Spotify, but everything that I had purchased on Apple is linked to it. I'm I spent a lot of money before Spotify was a thing. I don't want to lose it.
True. I haven't had my iTunes since like my iPod went dead years ago. I was so sad, and then my computer crashed, so everything was on. But yeah, I miss my little iTunes account because I that was back then where you would just like borrow music too,
Yeah.
and like upload it on there, and you can't upload stuff to Spotify like that. So I miss those like borrowing quote unquote days.
Yeah, and you could get them from, different sources and then like upload the file to iTunes and
Yes. Oh, miss those days. But back to Pedro. You go back, you're watching Game of Thrones, you're getting to know his character, good Oberyn Martell.
Yes.
What do you fancy most about this character of his?
I guess I would have to say probably the swagger that he had. He was just a very confident character. He was a freak. Let's not ignore that. But I mean, he didn't care if you were male, female, he was in it. And he was just very confident. He was very good with his weapon. A lot of times he was kind of the hired guy to do the trial by combat. He would be the person that people would elect to fight on their behalf, and he was pretty great at it.
Do you like a man that can defend himself and is a little freaky?
Yeah, absolutely. Who doesn't?
Were those?
And he actually learned. He actually learned, martial arts and how to use a staff and everything to train for that. So, that was really neat too. It wasn't, a stunt double or anything.
That's what me and my husband talk about when we watch certain things. We're like, they had to learn this whole new skill just for this like one thing they're doing. I can't think of there was something we were watching. It was like Jennifer Lawrence, but not Hunger Games. It was that movie where she showed her whole vajayjay. There was something she did in that we're like, she had to like learn this like skill. It's just so weird that to be an actor, It's like you come across all these like little things.
What about the people that had to learn like new languages, like on like Lord of the Rings, when they had to learn Elvish, and that's not even a real language and they still learned it?
Yeah, I'd be like, I'm out.
That's next level nerd right there. And I'm here for it. Or people that learn Klingon.
I know. I mean, you could take like college courses and that and everything.
My parents would be so mad if I took college courses on how to learn Klingon.
I know. How much it costs. That's one of those general eds they just toss at you. Like you could take Taylor Swift classes. I know there's a university that offers like a thing about South Park. And I'm like, I'm here for it. I took a pop culture class in college. The only class I really remember. And that was the best one. So I would definitely be taking those kinds of classes.
Yeah, I took a movies class and a bestsellers class, just as some gen ed stuff to get the electives out of the way. And I kind of feel like those were cushion classes, but I had fun.
Yeah, my dream is to be a teacher of like modern pop culture history. That would be my favorite thing to teach. Because in history, we always learn up to like World War II. And then it's like, like these kids, now history is the 70s and the 80s to these kids. Let's teach those things now.
Yes.
Pop culture, but from a pop culture perspective. That's what I'm going to do. But back to Pedro. So when I get a new celebrity crush and they come into my life, I like to, I go like, I'm like, oh my God, like I become so obsessed. Like everyone who talks to me at least 5 minutes, they know I love Homelander from The Boys. So I went back and I watched like a show from New Zealand he did many, many years ago. That's kind of like Shameless. Like it's just about this like really rebellious family. But is that something you did? I think you did with Pedro, right? You went back and were like, let me learn everything about this man.
Let me crawl up into IMDb and find everything that there is to be found. I watched Narcos. I watched The Bubble. I can't remember the full title of the movie he did with Nicolas Cage, where Nicolas Cage is an actor. He plays basically himself, and Pedro Pascal is like a super fan, and they end up like trying to save lives. It's hysterical.
It was really good. I was surprised how good that movie was.
Yeah. Like I loved that movie. I watched, Game of Thrones. I watched This Is Us. I watched Triple Frontier. I watched everything I could get my hands on, and The Hitman, everything. I just binged everything, and I've watched it more than once. I even watched, and this is just awful, he actually starred in a music video with Heidi Klum for one of Sia's songs. And it's called Fire Meets Gasoline, and it is intense, and that's the stuff that fantasies are made of.
Because we don't get music videos regularly, you really have to be like searching out for like an artist or like an actor to see him. So that one hasn't come. The only Sia video I think I know is the one where she's like, that little girl's like 1 2 3 1 2 whatever.
Yeah, I'll send you the link because it is magical. It is absolutely. It doesn't. You don't even see Sia in it. It's just him and Heidi Klum having this like forbidden love affair.
Ironically enough, I'm rewatching the first season of Project Runway right now. It's Heidi Klum.
Yeah.
Miss Heidi Klum. And they were savage.
With
before the internet, reality TV was at its peak. But because you're a lover of true crime, have you hunted down like the several Law and Order episodes he's appeared in?
Yes, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. All of it. I will be the first to admit he was not that attractive in Buffy. He was a little. I prefer him with some facial hair.
Oh, is it one of those situations where he doesn't necessarily need it, but it's part of who he is?
Yes, I think it has some more. He kind of has one of those faces that he has so many strong features that I feel like the facial hair kind of softens them a little bit.
Mm-hmm. It's like Homer Simpson. Like when he doesn't have that vibe, you're like, whoa. No.
You're like, no, grow it back.
Mm-hmm. I love my husband with a beard, and when he likes to have like a Ned Flanders mustache in the summer, I'm like, why? I know it's your face, but it's like my face though. So I have to look at it. So you mentioned Narcos. It was highly beloved. I remember that's kind of where I started to hear Pedro Pascal's name more and more after that show. However, not every actor can knock it out of the park every single time, and it's not their fault. Sometimes it's the material, which leads me to, what are your thoughts on Wonder Woman 1984?
I was not a fan. It was too out there for me. I love Pedro. I love everything that he did, or everything that he does, and I'm a fan of his role in that, but I didn't like the movie. Like, I would be happy if I could just fast forward to the parts where he's in it and just avoid the movie.
Mm-hmm. So bad that I forgot he was in it. All I remembered was like the beginning, and then there's like lies or they have to tell truths or something, and to play like Kristen Wiig's one of my favorite people in the world, and to play her like that, I was like offended.
Yeah,
like what is this?
Oh, and he's also incredible in The Mandalorian as well.
Yes, which I was gonna say, because Wonder Woman definitely connected to that nerd realm, as with like Game of Thrones, Mandalorian, The Last of Us, and I know you're a nerd yourself, so does that like increase the attractiveness that he is so deep into like the Comic-Con realm of it all?
Yeah, I think it takes a special kind of person to be able to pull those roles off. It's not something that a lot of people can just step into and be believable. Mm-hmm. And you kind of have to become that character, and I think he's one of those actors that's a fantastic method actor without going too crazy.
Yeah, he's not Daniel Day-Lewis.
Right, or Martin Sheen, or,
Mr. Austin Butler with the Elvis accent for months, years.
He had to go to a speech therapist to change that.
Oh my God, he's too much. I saw a meme that said he looked like Napoleon Dynamite. And then I saw another meme that said Taylor Swift looked like Napoleon Dynamite. And now I'm just like, all white people look like Napoleon Dynamite. I don't know. Those types of white people. But yeah. Yes. What's weird about Pedro though is he's in these like nerdy things, but when I look at him, he also can play like he could be a James Bond. So I think that's what's really cool about him. Like he like playing that villain in Kingsman. He was so good. Oh, this movie was so good. Oh my God. So good. So that's what I like about him, is that he's in these things, but he could flip it and be like a Leonardo DiCaprio too. Like he doesn't look like a Mark Hamill. Someone you're like, yeah, that guy's in a nerd movie. He's like a Harrison Ford.
Right. Absolutely. Like Dr. Indiana Jones. Dude, fine, but he is a nerd. He's a science nerd, a history nerd.
Hmm. And what are your thoughts on him sort of being typecast as like this loner dad father figure in his last two like TV hits?
The one that comes to mind mostly is The Last of Us, and to watch his progression as the season went on. When you first meet him, he's a dad, and without giving away too much, of the show, I mean, obviously people, if they haven't watched it by now, need to watch it because it's fabulous. But he is a dad and he loses his daughter, and he becomes hardened and he is out for himself. It's hard to break into that outer shell of his. And then he meets this young girl played by Bella Ramsey, who he is responsible to get from point A to point B safely, because she is the cure for this, world problem, this epidemic that we have. And she slowly starts to break down that wall a little bit at a time. And by the end, they are absolutely priceless. There's one point where they're sleeping in like an old abandoned school, and he plays this hard person, and she's got this book of dad jokes that she always tries to make him laugh with. Mm-hmm. And she asks him, and she's like, "Hey, Joel," and he's like, "What?" And she's like, something about, "Did you know that diarrhea runs in your family?" And he's like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, it runs in your genes." And he starts cracking up, and you can tell he's trying not to. And she's like, "Go the fuck to sleep," and she's dying, and he's dying. It's just, you see and then at one point, it comes out that he had tried to take his own life. And she was like, "I guess time heals all wounds." And he looks at her and he says, "It's not time," implying that it was her that fixed him. I mean, it's just watching their interaction and the genuine love that they have for each other outside of the show even makes it that much more endearing.
Yes, it can like make or break a show when the cast is like, you actually see them together, or if it's like one another's birthday and they post like a picture that's probably on their phone and not one they found in Google. I love that.
Right.
Like, that means they're really they really like each other. So he's continuing to like build onto his geek cred with the announcement that he'll be Reed Richards in the next Fantastic Four movie. But is there a character you would have wanted him to be that we haven't seen in live action yet?
Like you had mentioned, I think he would make a fantastic James Bond.
Or like a Marvel character.
Oh, a Marvel.
Or DC, if that's your flavor. But
I don't know if I love Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, but if they ever needed to revamp it, I think it would be good, because he has that ability to play the snarky, gentleman. I don't know. I think he could step into any role, really.
But are you excited that he is the next Reed Richards?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you think he has a good crew around him? I'm not familiar with the female that got casted, but I watched The Bear, I watched Stranger Things, so I know what the other two can do as well.
I like it when they kind of fill a cast with unknowns, because I feel like it makes the story more about the story rather than who's in it.
Yeah.
You can kind of lose yourself because you don't have all those preconceived notions about the people that are playing the roles.
That's true, because I feel like The Bear's huge, but not everyone watches The Bear. And he's not the star of The Bear. And then, I mean, that guy was on Stranger Things, and he was big in the Stranger Things fandom. But outside of that, like, you ask my mom who that guy is, she'd be like, "I have no idea what a Stranger Things is." She's like, "What?"
And I'm really excited about his new role, too, in Gladiator 2.
Gladiator 2?
Yeah.
I didn't hear about that one.
Yeah, he's going to play, I don't know who he's playing, because they've been very hush-hush and only releasing little snippets of the trailers. But it's going to be based off of Lucius's life as an adult, which is the Joaquin Phoenix's sister's son, his nephew. like he's grown up and has taken over, the Roman Empire, and it looks like there's going to be war, and it doesn't look like it's going to be like an arena setting. It looks like it's going to be more of a war situation or battle scenes. So I don't know how they're going to call it Gladiator 2, because like Russell died. He's not coming back.
They're like, oh, it's adjacent. Gladiator 2, and then adjacent. Just put a little in parentheses. Little side note. But aside from his roles, you noted that you like Pedro because he has an age-appropriate crush. Has age always been a huge factor when it comes to like crushes throughout your life? Like, are you like too old, too young, just right, like a Little Red Riding Hood?
Right? You mean the Goldilocks?
Oh, no, Goldilocks. Yes. Which I should know, because for my pre-K class, the librarian has read 3 different Goldilocks books. I was like, They get it. 2 weeks in a row, 3 of them. I'm like, we get it.
I didn't even know there were that many versions of it.
And they all end the same. It's just like different pictures.
Yeah.
But yes.
I would have to say that the majority of my crushes are, I would say they're age appropriate. I do feel a little bit guilty or a little bit weirded out when I watch movies from like my teens and my childhood, and I see someone that I had a crush on at that age, and I'm like, yeah, I get it. And then I'm like, ew, I get it.
I know.
This isn't right.
Like Devin Sawa and Casper, it's always like,
yes.
I'm like almost 40, but like him saying, "Can I keep you?" I'm like, yes.
You sure can.
Or
yeah, exactly. Or him in Little Giant.
Oh, Junior Floyd, yes.
I wanted to be Becky so bad.
Yes, very much so. And Christina, I want to be Christina Ricci because she kissed him twice, because of Now and Then and Casper.
And I kind of get, it makes me feel a little skeevy when I watch those, and I'm like, yeah, I get it. Because I am a 43-year-old woman, and I'm like, yelling at myself, and then I have to remember, okay, you were 10 or 12 or whatever it was. It was perfectly fine. And it's perfectly fine to reminisce about why you felt that those people were attractive. It's not like you're like, come here, little boy.
Yeah. Did you watch Pen 15 on Hulu?
Yes. Yeah.
Like, you know how they had like the big crush that she likes, and you're like, you're not attracted, but you're like, well, yeah, that's what the cool kid looked like then. So you're like, I see why they cast this kid. It's like, not you don't like it, but you're like, in that time frame, that's what you would have liked at 12 years old in 2000 and whatever. So I get it. I totally get it. It's like watching Freaks and Geeks and being like, well, yeah. Even though Seth Rogen looked old then.
Yeah, when I describe my crushes from childhood, I'm very careful about who I describe or who I discuss them with and how much I'm willing to divulge. Like with Devin Sawa, my best friend, and I would be like, yeah, I used to dream about kissing him. And then I'd be like, I used to practice on my hand when I was a kid. But if I was an adult being like, yeah, I'm thinking about Devin Sawa from being Casper and practicing kissing on my hand, I would probably be institutionalized.
It's like
I would end up on so many registries and watch lists.
Yeah, but it's like I think you get it if you're of a certain time. Like maybe maybe up to my mom's age, because she loved the Monkees, so she definitely had her teeny bopper time. My aunt would understand. So I think if you were a teen with the Beatles, but anything older than that, they're probably not understanding, because they were married by 13, so they didn't have time for crushes. They were in the coal mines by then.
Yeah.
Yes, I think our parents and maybe our grandparents would get it with the Beatles, but that's as far back as the teenage crush understanding.
I know my grandmother had a thing for Clark Gable.
I get that.
But it's not like she had his posters on her wall, because they didn't have posters.
They didn't have Tiger Beat.
Right. Can you imagine what those editions would have looked like?
So he's going to the speakeasy, and what does he do on a Friday night? Like his favorite color is gray, because that's all they have is black and white.
Right.
So like, what is blue?
It's monotone.
I love a teen magazine for that era.
Yeah.
But they were, they were dealing with a lot back then.
Yes, survival.
It was like Great Depression, things like that.
They didn't have time to fantasize and daydream. They were too busy being responsible adults.
I actually just got a book about teenagers because teenage culture really erupted in the 50s. And I just got a book about that. I'm very excited to dive into it once I'm done with Kenan Thompson's memoir. Well, we'll get to it. But another thing you like about Pedro is his sense of humor, because he does have a silly side, despite playing some really like serious characters. So do you have like a top 3 when it comes to like crushes where you love their sense of humor? Other than Pedro?
Well, Pedro is always and will always be number 1. I also love, I like Ryan Reynolds. I think his sense of humor is above reproach. I think it's just the quick wit. I absolutely adore Jason Bateman.
Yes.
I love that dry sense of humor. I love the sarcasm, and just that's what does it for me. And then I would have to say probably Jonah Hill. I know he's kind of been part of that whole cancel culture lately with some of the stuff that he's had going on. But I like Michael Cera, just all of the, real dry sense of humor. I love it.
Oh, Jason Bateman. I'm rewatching Arrested Development right now, and her perfection. Just his face when he has to deal with Job. Whenever his mom calls, like.
Funny enough, Michael Cera's in that too. He's George Michael.
Yes. I just saw him on. He was on David Cross's podcast, and I was like, how crazy is it that he met this guy when he was like 14, and all these years later they're still like connected, but now he's a grown up with like a kid and married. I don't know, it seems crazy that they made such an icon, and then like you made such an iconic show that kind of changed the landscape for TV for a while. Like, it's crazy.
Yes.
But yeah, Jason Bateman, that man can pull off the long sleeve rolled up button down like no other.
Yes, I loved him. Amanda has me, my co-host from Crime Rewind, Amanda has me watching Ozark.
You haven't finished yet?
I haven't, because now she's got me watching Grey's Anatomy.
Oh God, that's an investment.
Yeah, so she's recommending all these shows that I haven't seen, and then I get into one, and then I get distracted by another one. I'm basically like Dory when it comes to watching shows.
Grey's Anatomy, I watched like one episode because my favorite actor at the time was like played a Nazi on it. And so I watched that episode, then I got into a little bit, but I fell off. I like the spinoff, or I guess we'd call it a Private Practice.
The episode you're talking about, is that the one where he had the tattoo on his stomach?
Yes.
I watched that one not too long ago.
He's my favorite from one of my favorite shows, Queer as Folk. He played one of my favorite TV characters, Brian Kinney. If you love a confident, sexual, freaky man, check out Queer as Folk. Brian Kinney will change your life.
I'm on it. Adding it to the list.
That show, I was watching that in high school. The beginning of the show is like just like men in short, like go-go short, like go-go dancing, and it's like all rainbow and like club and sparkles. And my brother walked in one time when it started, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna go.
He's like, I can't watch.
He's like, what the hell? He's like, all right. And our mom doesn't care what we watch, so it's not like he can go tell her. He's just like, I don't know, Kendra's watching some weird shit in her room right now. But such a good show. I hope you enjoy it and you fall in love with Brian Kinney.
I will definitely let you know.
Which, speaking of LGBTQ, Pedro's like a big ally for them, for women's rights, humans' rights. And that's such a thing, with especially now where we know so much more about celebrities and their personal lives and their beliefs than we used to back in the day. So, like, would it sway you if you found out he was like a horrible, not like horrible, like Epstein Island horrible, but just like he was kind of a dick? You know, he just didn't care.
I think it would. I think that is part of what draws me to him, is that compassion that he has for everyone. His sister is actually trans, and he
So beautiful too.
She is gorgeous. Like, she was his date to, I want to say I can't remember which show it was, but just standing next to her, he is such a proud brother. He was her date to some award show where she was nominated, and he made it all about her, even though he's Pedro friggin' Pascal.
Mm-hmm.
So just the compassion that he has for other humans is what amplifies and magnifies my attraction for him, is because he exudes that for everyone. He seems like a safe person that way. If you ran into him and you needed help, you could reach out to, if you was crossing paths with him on the street and you needed to use a cell phone, or there was someone creepy. He just seems like a very approachable, very kind person. And I'm sure, I have yet to hear about anybody having a bad experience or bad encounter with him as a fan, as, someone acting with him, someone working with him. I have yet to hear any negative thing about him. And that is fantastic, because everything nowadays can be so misconstrued, and especially when you have a magnifying glass on you, to be that far above reproach, just to be that wholeheartedly kind. I mean, if someone were masking and making, a fake persona, eventually that would slip. And the fact that that hasn't happened tells me that that's genuine. Like, I bet he gives the best hugs.
Yeah, I miss living in LA only for Jimmy Kimmel, because I used to go to the tapings. Well, not the tapings a lot, but if there's like a guest I wanted to meet, you can meet any of the guests if you just go stand in the back alley of Jimmy Kimmel Live. Shout out to anyone in the area. Go back there. You'll try to meet people. But I liked hearing, because like all the celebrity, like paparazzi, but mostly like autograph seekers, like they would try to like get those, and they would tell us stories of like who was nice and everything. So I wish I could still live there just to know. I'm sure he's like a really nice person for his fans. You'd be surprised who is and isn't nice for their fans. Tony Hawk.
Who?
Tony Hawk's not great. Adam Sandler is David Spade broke my heart not coming over. And I'm like, dude, sign my Emperor's New Groove VHS. Like, what the hell? I'm trying to get my Disney DVD, my stuff signed.
Yeah, it's not like you were one of those people that is trying to get autographs to sell it. You were one of those people. I mean, you wouldn't be trying to get your Emperor's New Groove VHS signed. It would be like
like
a
Tommy Boy or something. Yeah, well, shout out to the only thing I like about Selena Gomez is that when she would go to Kimmel, she would have her person separate the fans from the autograph people, and she would do all her fans first, and then she'd go and get all the autograph people and be like, all right, you're all taken care of, bye-bye.
That's awesome. And she's another person I've heard really great things about too.
There's so many that were super cool, like John Krasinski and Emily Blunt were like super nice. Like, I have so many stories of who was like and who was like yay. But back to Pedro, because we've reached that part where we're going to use our pure imagination. If you two met, hit it off, what do you think your lives would be like together?
I imagine that it would be a small town in Maine, because we can't live in a big city because people would find him and try to lure him away from me. I feel like he is somebody that could live a normal life when not acting, and then be able to separate the two. So I really think he would be content with me and Larry in some small town in Maine.
Like, he has Jeffrey Dean Morgan energy, where he can go like have a farm, and then he's gonna go film something, but he's gonna always come back to the farm.
Exactly, he's always gonna come back to me and Larry.
I like that. And Maine, I've never been, but it seems beautiful.
Yes.
My dream is Vermont. Never been there, don't know anything about it, but I feel like I'm supposed to live in Vermont for some reason. Don't know why.
To me, Maine and Vermont are probably in my mind, they're very similar, kind of rustic.
I feel like they look like have you seen the Goosebumps movie, like the Jack Black? I feel like they all look like those towns.
Yes.
And that's my dream, kind of like a Hocus Pocus. Like, Hocus Pocus was my dream. Yeah, Hocus Pocus.
And that house.
Oh, with the attic. I have an attic now, and I'm like, it's still not as cool as Max.
Right. I want to be able to go curl up on my attic roof thingy, my steps to my lookout deck and read my book under the stars.
I know. Oh, be a dream. But those are like the towns that I've always dreamed of.
Max Dennison was another one of those people I had. Yeah. Max Dennison is another one of those people I had a crush on growing up.
I didn't. Max was cute. No, I like Thackeray Binks. When he was a human, I was like, why'd you turn that cute boy into a cat? So mad.
Exactly. And then when people were like, he's on NCIS, and I'm like, he's not doing it for me as an adult.
My mom's a huge fan of all and she was like, you know who that guy is on NCIS? And I was like, who? She's like, your little hocus pocus cat. And I was like, oh, ew, no. Yeah. It's like when Lord of the Rings came out and shot my mom's like, that's Mikey from the Goonies. I was like, what? You got to be kidding me. Because Mikey was like one of my first loves of like movies.
Yes. Yes. Like, and Chunk got kind of cute growing up, like as an adult. He aged well.
You wouldn't even know it was him. Like
I know.
I really liked Corey Phil. I love Mouth. So.
Yes. And he is off living his best life now. Like I am so happy for him. I mean, it's not a normal conventional life. He's doing his musical career.
Oh, it's a train wreck. I can't help but stare at. I love it. I just, my God.
I'm so happy for him that he is in a place in his life and he has healed enough to be able to do those things and just be unapologetically who he is.
Mm-hmm. Good for him.
It takes a lot of healing to get through what he went through and to be able to get past that and do that.
And he's opening for Limp Bizkit this summer.
Limp Bizkit should be opening for him.
I'm just like, I was like, told my husband, because they're playing like 2 hours from where we used to live in Virginia. I was like, we'll go visit your parents. We can drop off the dog and we're going to see Limp Bizkit and Corey Feldman. That is the plan. Yeah. We need to do this because, oh my God, I love Limp Bizkit. They put on such a good show because they know what they are. Yeah. They know. And I respect that. So we talked about the crush. It's time to talk more about what you have going on. We kind of dove into the who, what, when, where, why last time you were on when you came to talk about all things horror movies, and that was pretty nice. But Crime Rewind been on a bit of a hiatus, but I do believe that hiatus is ending soon. So when will the show be back in action?
We are going to be dropping an episode this coming Tuesday, and then we will be coming back, I believe, bi-weekly after that until things settle down in my personal life. So that is the plan going forward.
I know people don't realize how much goes into making podcasts.
Right.
It's like you have to do research.
Right. And then with the type of work that I do, this is definitely the busier season. So I'm putting in a lot of extra hours at work. And so that decreases the amount of time and effort that I have to devote to the podcasting. So now that we're on the tail end of our busy season, I can start getting back into the things that I love to do for fun.
And you said you always focus on like those cold cases that aren't getting enough attention, but how do you go about like finding those particular ones? Like where are you just like on Reddit or are you just like Googling? Like how do you find these ones?
We take a lot of listener suggestions. A lot of times they will have stories or cases from their area that haven't gotten a lot of attention. There's also a cold case database that you can go online and, get some information. And then a lot of times it's hard to find those cases because not only do you have to find the cases, but then you have to find the cases that have enough information available for you to be able to create a podcast. There's so many cold cases and it frustrates me, but there's a lot of cold cases that don't have, because they haven't gotten any coverage, there's not a lot of things online about them. So, doing the research is very, very time consuming in order to be able to create the podcast. So, it's not just finding a case, but you have to find the additional information. We like to reach out to family members and see if, they'd like to be a part of the show to discuss it. A lot of times they're very receptive to it, but then we've run into where once they've recorded, they decide they don't want to go that avenue because they don't want to make anybody angry, especially like law enforcement or anything. We had one woman who Amanda and I had talked in depth with her about her son's case, and she was prepared to go on the podcast and, be a guest. And then we found out that she had been speaking with another podcast show, and they told her that if she wanted to continue to work with them, she could not do our show.
Oh.
So we're like, okay. But we went ahead and we did a follow-up episode with the information that she did provide us, because, she gave us the information knowing that it was going to be used for a podcast. So even though she didn't do a guest spot on the show, we still gave the information and provided an update. So, it's a kind of a tightrope to walk sometimes between, the entertainment part of true crime, because obviously there has to be some entertainment value to the show, or else people just aren't going to be engaged. And having the ability to do it respectfully, it's okay to laugh at yourselves, and but we never want to do it at the expense of the family or the victims. So it's, you have to make sure you walk that very, very fine line of being respectful to the case, the people involved, and still being able to provide entertainment to the people that are listening.
And what have you noticed? There's like a trend in like the types of people that are left like in the cold case files.
I know that there has been a lot of shows that have had a lot of success with true crime, and they've kind of come under fire because of that comedy element to the show. They crack jokes and things, and sometimes it can be perceived that it's at the expense of the victims. I do have one show that I recommend that I just absolutely love, and it's called Small Town Murder. And it's two guys, they're actually stand-up comedians, and they are very, very honest. They're like, we do not make fun of the victims or their families. We make fun of the perpetrators because they're idiots. And we make fun of the small town, police precincts because of all their bungling, and, and it's an absolute hysterical shit show. And I love it. And I, if I had to recommend, that would be a podcast that people, if they want the more comedic approach, definitely check that one out. But I would definitely say that there has been an uptick in the criticism of true crime podcasts, because it's a lot of times there's only so much content to go around as far as the stories that we can tell. And you have to find some way to set yourself aside from the other people that are typically telling the same stories. So that's where Amanda and I come in, is we're trying really hard to find those stories that not a lot of people are telling. And they're the older ones that haven't gotten a lot of attention, or they've died down in that attention, hopefully bringing them back into circulation and, hopefully getting more traction. And that's ultimately what's going to help some of these cases get solved, is because people have forgotten about them. And not to say that our podcast is going to be the end all be all of helping someone's crime be solved, but you never know. If it was 10 years ago, they might hear something and say, they might share it, be like, hey, this is from your old hometown. And then that person listens to it, and they might hear something that triggers a memory for them, that might trigger a call into police about something that they saw that they thought was completely unrelated or unimportant. So that is ultimately our goal, is to bring attention as widespread as we can about these cases that aren't getting enough attention, whether it be because it is, someone, a minority, or whether that be race or religion or sexual preference or anything like that. A lot of the cases, unfortunately, if you are not a middle class or upper class white woman, you're just not going to get the same attention as, a sex worker, or, a gay male, or a poor Black family, or whatever it may be. You're not going to get the same traction that a single or a white upper class female or white middle class female is going to get. And that's sad. It should not be that way. So Amanda and I try really hard to find those cases that just get overlooked for whatever reason it may be.
Mm-hmm. And that new show, Found, it's fictional, but it's definitely like focusing on like those kinds of people that are missing, that don't get a lot of media attention because they aren't white or rich, like that. So, have you watched that one, or is that another one on the list?
It's
I know
on
Amanda,
my list.
I know Amanda watches. I'll say, not the greatest show acting wise, but it pulls you in like no other. I think the lead and Zach Morris are great. All the supporting characters could take a class in acting, but it pulls you in. Me and my husband were like, and it only got 13 episodes for a first season. It is getting a second one, so if you binge, don't worry, you're gonna get more. But 13, I was like, that's it. That's it. No.
Mark Paul Gosselaar is another one of those guys. He's one of those rare people that was attractive young and has just gotten better with age.
Oh, he's in my top 10 forever. I don't care. I don't care, Dre, that Zach Morris is trash. I don't care. I love him always and forever.
Yes.
And I think that's why I like Homelander.
I think he is what started off my kick for toxic men, because Zach Morris was a toxic teen.
I mean, he's just, but so cute. He could do whatever. I was like, and he kissed all the girls. He kissed every single girl on the show. And I was like, yes.
Yes.
The only time he was like not as attractive, that the college years hair was, I did not like all that. That was too much hair.
Yeah, it was like a shaggy mullet.
Yeah, it was like, like he got married with that hair. Oh, that's love. That was love.
Yes.
And I was very happy to see them come together for like the reboot that they tried to do on Peacock that didn't last, but so good. I thought it was cute, but nobody else did. Did you watch the reboot?
I don't think I did. It doesn't ring a bell, and I feel like if I had I would remember it.
It was like cheesy but aware, but modern cheesy. It was good, and the kids were all fun, and like Jessie's in it. I think she's the school counselor.
Oh, I did hear about that. I just never watched it.
Oh, Zach is the governor of California. That's his thing. He's still married to Kelly. Don't think Lisa popped up, but Slater works at the school. I think he's a football coach, of course. But it was cute. It was cute. I think
check it out.
I didn't get to see what the second season offered, but the first season was good. I'll give it the first season. I can't recommend second because I didn't watch it, but I recommend the first one. But going back to Pedro, real quick to tie him into the true crime. He already did Narcos, which is about one of the biggest crime, guys ever. But is there like a kind of big crime story you'd like to see him in?
I would love to see, I don't know. I would love to see him maybe take on a bad guy. He makes a fantastic bad guy. I would love to see him maybe portray like one of the Boston Stranglers, or just something, because I think he has that depth to him, and I think he could pull off the creepy really, really well. So I would love to see him play one of those people. I know that when Zac Efron played Ted Bundy, he did a fantastic job, and I feel like when you put one of those actors that you don't expect that kind of role from into that kind of role, it blows your mind. Like, Zac Efron was fantastic as Ted Bundy. So creepy.
So High School Musical, I always love Zac Efron. I think, do you think he could be like a Richard Ramirez, like a Night Stalker?
No, Richard Ramirez was hideous.
He was so scary. When he was when they did you watch American Horror Story at all?
Yes.
When they did Hotel and they had Richard, that was good casting.
Yes. I liked really when Lou Diamond Phillips played him in a made-for-TV kind of movie.
Oh my Lord. But LaBonda?
Yes.
Night Stalker? Oh my God, Richie. No, Richie.
No, not Richie.
Richie. But what kind of cases are we going to hear when you guys come back? Well, without giving too much. Where are we going?
Our next case is going to be a local case to me here in Iowa. It is about two twin boys. They were aged 3, and they were visiting their mother, and the house caught on fire, and the mother and one of the twins made it out completely unscathed, and the other twin was locked in a bathroom and poured gasoline on him and set him on fire.
Sounds
and
like
no one
Mom
has ever
did
been
it.
charged. Yeah, and she is out and about and free in the world and never been charged. And there's a history of, social services involved for abuse and on her part, and she's never been charged, and there's never been any resolution or any case or no, justice for this little boy, no justice for Ricky. So we're definitely going to bring some light to that case and hopefully get the family some attention and maybe revamp the efforts on getting some justice for him.
It's probably CPS's fault. I think CPS is one of the laziest government factions.
They were visiting their mom for one of their scheduled visitations. Like, she had unsupervised visitations, and it was in the middle of the night, and the neighbors saw a fire and called police. And when they got there, she was standing outside with the little boy, and the other little boy was caught in the house, like locked in the bathroom and set on fire, like with accelerant.
I hope something comes of that, and it's probably her. I mean,
oh, for sure, absolutely.
Yeah. I hate when it's obvious when you're like watching those documentaries and you're like that abducted in plain sight. It's still the wildest thing I have. I was gooped and gagged I was like, every twist and turn. I mean, Tiger King was wild, but in a different type of way. Abducted in plain sight was like everyone in the family bang this guy. Got the dad, got the mom,
even the dad. There was a really good show, I believe, on Peacock or Hulu, where they did a weekly series about it, and it was really good. I enjoyed that one too. It wasn't a true crime, it was more like a mini series kind of thing, so it was more acting and story based rather than factual based, but the acting in it was really good, and they kind of went into more depth about the manipulation of the family. And it's got Tom Hanks' son Colin in there. It's
he played the guy, like his name B or something. Is that the
handsy dad?
Yeah,
handsy dad.
Oh, I didn't watch that because I was like, the documentary was just like, I didn't want to ruin the documentary. So if you say it's good, maybe I'll check it out. But I was like, when the dad's part, I was like, I spit out whatever I had in my mouth. I paused it. I had to rewind. I was like, did he just say what I think? He got I love one of the best. Yeah. One of the best.
That there had to be some mishaps. I mean, my goodness.
I love that. Oh, that one, the one about the Duggars is really wild. Oh, I love those kinds. I'm so excited for the one about Nickelodeon coming out in March.
Oh boy.
Ooh, that one. If they get Amanda Bynes on camera talking about Dan Snyder, my life will be complete. Oh.
She is struggling. Have you seen her on TikTok lately?
Yeah. I feel
so bad for her.
I know, because she could have been one of the greats of comedy. I think she could have went on to SNL just as much as Keenan did. She was so great, but
yeah,
hopefully she'll get back there.
I would pay good money for her to do my nails because she wants to be a manicurist now.
I seen that. If that's what she wants to do, I wish her luck. But I hope that one day she can find herself back into movies because it's golden.
Yes. But what one is it where she played? Is it Sydney White?
Yes.
I love that one too.
Well, she had a lot of bangers in the early 2000s.
I loved her in Saved too.
Oh, that is one of my top favorite movies. For an evening at the movies, I have 5 that for my birthday episode that I'm like going between, and Saved is one of them.
Yes, I love that one.
Oh, she's in that. Oh no, she was not in Saved. She wasn't in Saved. That was Mandy Moore. Easy A, yeah. It's the same kind of character though as Mandy Moore. That like righteous.
Yes.
Girl, yes. But before we go, can you remind people where they can find you in Crime Rewind and all your literature reapers as well? That's coming back.
Absolutely. Crime Rewind is going to be dropping on Tuesdays. Coming up, first episode back is this coming Tuesday. And that can be found anywhere you get your podcast fix. Literature Reapers will be returning, I would say, within the next month or so. We just have to iron out when we're going to be recording. And then I can also be found with all my network cohorts every Tuesday evening live when we do our I Did Not Make These Rankings podcast network drafts.
Yes, I never win them, but they're always great. Shannon,
I always do one for myself, like my picks, and then the other one I'm like, I'm going for votes on this one. One is just my pure enjoyment, and then the other is for votes.
I'm very excited for the one coming up. This episode will have long passed, so we'll talk about it, but I'm very excited. But Shannon, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me about Pedro Pascal, your Hollywood It-List crush. And everyone, you can find all of Shannon's information below. And until next time, as always, keep crushing it.
Crushgasm is part of the I Did Not Make These Rankings podcast network, along with some other pretty cool shows, including An Evening at the Movies, Crime Rewind, Literature Reapers, Love is Black, Masturbators, Men Are the Prize, Season to Season, The Sip List, and Toontastic Journeys. You can go to idnmtrpodcastnetwork.com to find not only Crushgasm, but all of the aforementioned really cool podcasts. Alrighty.